appreciate you taking your time out from your extremely busy business to help share your story and share some educational information with some of these students. So first, I'd like for you to each introduce yourself. And Tom, I know that you had some military service. Just give a very brief overview of that military service. And then Casey, as a military spouse, I know that you also have a significant contribution to that whole venture. And so just introduce yourselves and just share a little bit about what you did.
Okay. So my name is Tom Jennings. I spent about 20 years in the Army. Most of my career was spent in special operations. I retired back in 2015. Looked around for a little bit for jobs. Fortunately, I had some good training from the Army that was, allowed me to get a pretty good job. So we moved to New York City, or lived outside of New York City, and I got a job within the city for a while. And I'll let Casey introduce herself.
Okay.
It's gonna be kind of weird handing it back.
Yeah, that'll be fine. And then I'm Casey Jennings, obviously, and yeah, we've been together, I guess, a little over 8 years now. And I don't know, I've always had jobs at different military museums. I worked at different high-notch military museums that really kind of gave me the experience to be able to do this, which was really awesome. And I think there's a question in there about going from employee to running your own business. But yeah, so we've always been involved in the military community, and that's been really important to us also, and veterans, and so that's why we do what we do here. You don't want us to talk about how we got started yet, do you? Or do you want to transition into that?
We're going right there.
Okay.
So, yeah, describe the transition
Sure.
from soldier and or military spouse to civilian life.
Sure. Well, that'll be a better question for you, but
So,
yeah,
hand it off
you do
over.
that one, and then I'll do how
All
I
right.
started.
So transition from military to civilian life.
Yeah, what was that like? Describe that process.
Well, for me, I mean, some people say it was kind of, would say that it's kind of difficult when you spend that much time of your life doing a particular job to transition into something completely different. I did not find that difficulty, I don't think, because I am very much a planner. So probably 2 years before retirement, I was looking at jobs. I was looking at what my education level was and what I could do to make myself presentable and competitive in the civilian market. And so I spent a lot of time the last 2 years of my career in the Army actually going back to school to try to finish off an MBA at the time. And I was pretty successful in classes. A lot of it was online, some of it was in person. Came out there with, came out of the program with B's, which still get degrees, and that's the thing I like to say. And then was fortunate enough, along with the military training,
We'll go
security
closer to
clearances,
there you go.
all that kind of stuff, to be able to, get a pretty good paying job. So the transition for me was fairly simple, but it was because I was planning for it, which doesn't always happen with some people. So
I think as far as the transition on a personal level is a little bit different than a professional level, right? But it's just learning that going to an 8 to 5 job instead of a, the Army job, which is 6 a.m. to 24/7, or deployments, which, I mean, Tom still does military contracting, so a lot of that is still ingrained in him. He still gets to go do that every so often, so he enjoys doing that. It's more of, I guess I don't know where I was going with that, but it's different on the personal level, just to transition from that and getting into the routine of like, okay, now he's actually in control of everything, rather than the Army controlling it, right? So, and then, do you want me to go into how we started?
I actually have a question for Tom.
Yeah.
So, specifically, what skill sets that the Army trained you or provided to you, or that you learned in your capacity as a soldier? What specific skill sets, personality traits, etc., translated and really helped you start this entrepreneurial venture with TommyHawks Axe House?
I'd say,
Planning,
planning
probably being one of them.
Yeah, planning is one of them for sure. I'd say, just like any other military service, as you advance through the ranks, the leadership schooling and stuff that you'll get, whether it's Air Force, Marine, Navy, or Army, kind of prepares you for...
Don't forget Coast Guard.
Yeah, Coast Guard, can't forget the Coasties. Kind of prepares you for what you're going to do, potentially when
And
you
Space
exit the
Force.
military.
Sorry, Space Force.
Yeah, Space Force is another one. So those leadership skills will help you out, in terms of, knowing how to manage people, or learning how to manage people. Plus, obviously, the experiences you get while you're in service, having people under you, trying to manage them, trying to tend to them, to their morale, welfare, and well-being in general, kind of helps you when you transition to having your own business. You know, you're looking out for your people. You want to create a good mindset as far as morale, teamwork, the sense of a team.
Esprit de corps.
Esprit de corps, yeah. And so a lot of these military-ish terms that you hear, like esprit de corps and stuff like that, doesn't necessarily translate to the civilian world. But I think what Casey and I do here, we very much are proud of the brand we build that is seen by everybody that works here, and they sort of carry that on. They carry on the torch when you talk about TommyHawks, and it works out well for us. So.
And they are part of the family.
They are part of the family, right?
Yeah.
They are part of the family. But I was going to say too, and just to couple what he was saying with the taking the leadership. I mean, Tom retired as a first sergeant, so he had, a group of 500 soldiers that he was in charge of. So taking that and then to do it on a smaller scale, even with our team, has been very helpful. So.
Yes.
Yeah. So describe the transition, and Casey, we'll just start with you. Describe the transition from being an employee most of your life to an employer.
Right. Yeah. So for me, and I mentioned, I'd worked at different military museums. I've always had a really high work ethic, and that was just instilled in me from the time I was little with my grandparents, and I've always wanted to be the best and do the best. And any place that I've worked at, I have treated it like my own. And you don't find employees like that necessarily, or, when you are the employee, sometimes people have animosity towards you because they think, you're sucking up or whatever. But I've always been like that. I had always been like that, and it helped me to get promoted within those organizations. I moved into management. I managed an IMAX theater and the simulator attractions that were at the museum I worked at. And being in that type of leadership role and as close to my boss, like I only had one person above me, essentially. I had a really awesome boss at the infantry museum that I worked at, and he was a retired command sergeant major. So I learned a lot of stuff from him, and how to treat people and what to do. So shout out to Steve, but yeah, so I really learned a lot of that from him, and being able to run the staff that I had of 13 at that time, even just being a manager. And then when we moved to New York and Connecticut, I managed a dog daycare facility. So a smaller staff, about 9 or 10 people, but same thing. So I just took those with me as I went into that. And then transitioning into owning your own business, I know we're going to get into faults, but I think the thing that is the hardest to do when it is your own now is like it's so much perfection and pressure, right? I am a perfectionist, and I want to make sure that my guys think that it's the best job ever, and that they feel included and important here. And so, I forgot where I was going with that again, but I've really enjoyed having it as my own. It really is my own, and I think that they also treat it as their own.
Sure.
And if you were to talk to any one of them, I'm sure they would tell you, because they have ideas. They feel like TommyHawks is a piece of them too, and they really appreciate being here.
That's a great point. Tom, how do you instill in your employees a sense of ownership to where they want to pursue the same standard of excellence that you have for your own company? How do you do that?
So for me, I approach it differently than she does. So she's very much like she said, the attention to detail oriented. She will let you know when something's not right. She, as soon as she comes into the shop, she can spot if something's been done or hasn't. I'm, just because I'm a guy and I can only focus on one thing at a time, I don't really see all of the imperfections at once like she can. So it's a good balance, because I kind of tend to do that by example. So while I'm working here, when I am here, because I'm not here all that often with my other job, but when I'm here, I just try to set the example. If something needs to be done, they'll see me doing it. So there's no such thing as a job that's, above or below me to do. If there's something like garbage that needs to be taken out, or sweeping that needs to be done, I'll do it, and then the guys will see that and they'll say, okay, Tom is working toward the ultimate goal, but he's not above anything.
So leading by example.
Exactly.
Leading from the front.
Same too. I mean, we're
not that she doesn't do that, but I'm just saying she has a different.
Because I do that too. You got to be in the trenches, but at the same time, what I was going to say is, it's not like we're absent owners either. We are here. I mean, there are days, obviously, we are going to not be here, just to let them kind of handle it. And it's finally gotten to the point where we can kind of take a step back here and there, right?
Yeah.
But we are here. We're here on the weekends. They, like I said, and we take care of them. We buy them food. We do things for them. that make them feel appreciated and let them come up with suggestions as well. So
yeah, my favorite coffee shop in town. Guess who's there every single time I go there?
Right.
The owners.
Right.
And guess who's cooking the food sometimes, and guess who's taking orders
Right.
sometimes,
Right.
and guess who's bussing dishes sometimes.
Everybody's, friends or colleagues of ours will always say, when are you going to step back? Are you going to, and I'm like, no, honestly, I enjoy it. Not that I ever would fully step back. We can try to take trips here and there. We finally gotten to the point where we can step away for a weekend or whatever. But we want to be here. We want them to see us here. We want.
How many in the last year? How many hours a week on average do you guys think you put in on this business? Seriously, and I'm not just talking about being here in the shop. I'm talking about being at home late at night, balancing the books, or just having strategic meetings over the kitchen table.
It varies between us, because even when I'm overseas doing a contracting job, I'm responsible for the social media. I do all the logo design, motion graphics, video editing, all that kind of stuff. Not to mention trying to seek more licensees for the brand and stuff, like expand TommyHawks across the country. So, she works far more than I do, but even
so
myself,
for you, how many hours on average? Let's take out the fact when you're contracting. Like when you're here, how many hours a week do you think you put in on this thing?
60 or more. Yeah.
Casey, what about you?
That'd be about the same.
About the same?
I would like the best analogy I think I could
give her the mic.
The best analogy that I think I can give is I try to reserve one day. My Mondays are like my days off-ish. So people know that I am really trying not to leave my house.
Right.
I may do some emails. I may edit a few pictures for TommyHawks,
but that she still does.
Right.
We wake up on Monday, which is our day off, and she's already scrolling through, answering emails.
Or social media. But that's really a day I try not to come into the shop. I try to do things for myself, whether it's being outside with my horse, whether it's, having a family game night. I try to keep that mental aspect of it, which I wasn't good at for a long time, and it can get draining. So I try to do that now, but other than that, we have apparel stuff too that we do. So it's printing shirts, it's getting that promoted, it's going to tournaments to promote that. So I would say 60 or more hours a week on that. Yeah.
On average, with the understanding there's probably some weeks you put in 80.
Right.
Sometimes there's weeks you put
a little
in
less.
50.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
How'd you guys get the idea for TommyHawks?
It was Tom. But I like to tell the story. So when we moved home, and I'm from Ozark, graduated from Ozark, when we moved home to be around family, he started building custom TommyHawks in our garage just as a hobby, and I was like, what are you doing? You're making a lot of noise. And so he just started doing that. He formed the name TommyHawks, and that was back in 2016, I think early 2017. And he was selling them to a lot of his retired military buddies, and they were like, dude, you should really go global with this type thing. And then that kind of spun off into this. He was looking up YouTube videos just of Forged in Fire and those axe enthusiast shows, right? And then there started to become these videos that were popping up from Canada, and it was called the Backyard Axe Throwing League, and they basically moved it inside. And then over on the East Coast, there were places popping up. And then there was one that popped up in St. Louis a few months before us, literally 2 or 3 months before we did, and then one in Kansas City. And Tom was like, we need to bring this to Springfield. It's going to be huge. And I was like, game on, let's do it. And that's what I literally tell to everybody, but that's how it happened. And so we opened this shop. We literally built the lanes within a couple of months. Not even that. Couple weeks, because we were looking for buildings. We started looking for buildings the end of 2017, opened here in March of 2018. We signed our lease in February of 2018. So less than a month to build out the lanes, and it was bare bones in here. People that came in here in the very beginning come in now and they're like, oh my gosh, you've added so many things, But that's how we got started. He saw this cool entertainment aspect and was like, there's nothing like that around here. And we were really the first in Southwest Missouri, Northwest Arkansas, and then all the, a few others have popped up since then. But we were the first and have been really successful and blessed in doing that. But that's how we got started.
I got to say, just speaking strictly in terms of location, you guys have a horrible location.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating...
Besides being on Route 66, that's a cool thing.
Yeah, but what was fascinating about it is like it's the whole "if you build it, they will come" concept. You guys have built out such a strong brand and such a fun business.
Right.
People will come to,
Oh, and they come from Indiana. I've had people come
Really?
from Wisconsin that pass through other, not that those aren't good either, but they'll pass through just because they see what we have, and honestly, that's a total God thing and blessing. But yeah, so they,
Well, I think it's just a proof of concept that if it doesn't really matter. If you have a good product, it's going to attract people to it, but you also have to put in the work as far as the.
You can't just expect it to make money on its own, because it will not.
I got a good point about this. So, a lot of people have come in here in the past. We've been open. We are starting our 4th business year this year, 3rd anniversary, but going into our basically 4th year of business. And I've heard it a handful of times. Somebody comes in here and they're like, "Oh, this is awesome. This is amazing. Like, but look how easy this is. Like, you just set up some targets and charge people money." I'm like, brother, it's a whole lot more than that. You know what I mean? So just the amount of hours that we're talking about, and we did it very purposefully, right? So once we saw this business model and how attractive it could be and how unusual and unique it was then a sense of urgency. Like, I would not let the idea go. Like, we were looking for ways to fund it. We were looking for ways to find a location. We were going all this kind of stuff, but there was a very distinct sense of urgency because I wanted to be the first. I wanted to be the biggest, all of that kind of stuff before anybody else opened up. And then I even estimated, because back then it was a new thing, not like now where you go into every single town in the United States and you can find a place that throws axes, maybe not to this extent, but back then I was like, we need to be the first, and I need to basically put myself ahead of it. So advertise, get on Facebook, build a Facebook page, all that stuff, even before there was a single door open, right? Or a location even established. We had TommyHawks Axe House coming soon to Springfield. So there was a big sense of urgency behind it.
How did you guys fund the company? Did you take out a bank loan, saved up money, investors?
Which is something, if we had everything to do it again, we would probably go the bank loan route. But instead, we funded it all ourselves.
Oh, wow.
So family money, putting into it, making it, and it was Spartan in the beginning, like she was alluding to. In the very beginning, when we opened our doors, it was just these lanes and the tables. None of this other stuff you saw was even here. So it was one of those things where, just at least get the doors open, get the concept out there, start attracting people, and then the rest will follow.
But are you glad now that you did that, because you didn't have to give up any equity in your company to investors?
Yes.
You didn't have to be beholden to a bank and stress out over making loan payments, and I'm sure that lowers your monthly overhead not having to have bank payments.
Absolutely. There are benefits to it, but then sometimes when we look at this place, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because you look at it and you're like, oh wow, this is very unique and very rugged, right? Because there's no finished walls and it's kind of an industrial look.
Yeah.
Sometimes we kind of say, what would happen if we had gotten that, $250,000 bank loan or whatever it would be needed to build a polished product, a more polished building. But
I think that's part of the allure,
brand,
though. I mean, speaking as a customer, part of the allure is that it's a little bit rustic.
Yes.
There's lots of places you can go in town that are polished and bougie, and that's part of I think that's part of your brand. So I think, I mean, again, speaking as a customer, I think I mean, I look around and what you have is really amazing, and I think it's like just the right amount of rusticness.
Right, to where you don't feel like it's totally.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How did you structure your company? In our class, we've talked about the differences between an S Corp designation, an LLC, a C Corp. How did you guys structure your company?
So we're just an LLC.
Okay.
So dually owned, a dual partnership LLC.
And then you have locations in Branson and Joplin, correct?
Yes.
Are those separate LLCs, or do you have those? Okay.
So the way that works is, it's not a full-on franchise. Our model is to try to provide an entrepreneurial opportunity to military veterans and or law enforcement people, so that they could potentially set up something that they find interesting, attractive, and fun, and would be fun to run. And we understand a lot of those people don't have all that much money. So when you talk franchises, then you have to start getting paying the fees for franchise disclosure documents, and the price starts ramping up significantly.
And you guys, as the founders, have to support all those franchisees.
Yeah. So we take a different approach. We call it basically, at the moment, we call it a business license. So all of the material, everything that we've ever created, from lane schematics to all of my motion graphics, videos, logos, all that kind of stuff, to what kind of Yeah, what kind of point of sale system we use. That's available to a licensee, but then they have a little bit of flexibility and freedom to build out their location sort of how they see fit. It doesn't have to mirror, it's not like McDonald's. Where each one looks exactly the same.
Right.
So.
What are some of the biggest mistakes?
But we make royalties and that kind of thing. So it's still set up.
It's a hybrid type thing. So a hybrid of a franchise and a business license.
Sure. What are some of the biggest mistakes you guys have made along the way?
Mistakes.
For me, it would just be it would be giving up control. It would be like, that's just we're both type A.
Not delegating enough?
Yeah, that would be definitely.
Hey, struggle is real. I feel you.
To know that.
I know what it's
I know
like.
that my guys can handle it, but it is that I have this high standard, right, on myself and on my business, and so just trusting them more, trusting Tom more. That's like my personal. That's our, like I said, we're both type A, so we at the beginning, and even still sometimes, it gets to where we'll cross paths, cross streams, and kind of not.
It's not crossing paths. It's clashing.
It's clashing.
I was going to say, let's call it what it is.
Yeah, it's clashing.
Let's be real here.
And that's just we've learned kind of which lane each person takes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like staying in your lane, and it's hard because and it's especially hard if he's been gone. So just to give like an analogy, I mean, he was gone all of 2020. So I'm here running it with my guys. So when he comes home, if he tries to come in and do it a little bit differently, it's like, what did I just do for the past year?
Right.
So it's learning to compromise with that, learning for him to compromise a little bit too with that. But other than that, like any big mistakes, I don't think there's really been any business side mistakes. We pretty much knew what we wanted to do and just went with it. I mean, we did have a few, of our other locations, there are things, we've met with multiple people besides the people that actually signed on to our business license. So learning how to approach that, when people were first approaching us about licensing the business and giving them just enough information, but not too much that they can open their own, which happened to us.
Do you have them sign a non-disclosure agreement?
Yes, now we do.
Okay,
so,
good. I was going to say, if not, call me, I'll hook you up.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
No, that's good.
Now we do. Because that actually did end up kind of happening to us, and I really didn't give them that much information, but still. So just kind of kicking yourself, and I just knew that door closed because another one was going to open up, and sure enough, a better one did. So it worked out.
I'd say some of the biggest mistakes I would say for the business wise is to be so fully invested that you can't pull yourself away. Like she was talking about, you work and work and work. You never give yourself a little bit of time to yourself to try to recharge the batteries.
Yeah, that was me too.
And then you're so protective of everything that you've built that we know for a fact that people, especially in the beginning when we were the only ones within a tri-state area, people were coming in out of state to visit us, and then lo and behold, you see some familiar faces building an axe house and wherever they came from. So learning to let some of that go, there's nothing, it's not rocket science. They're going to come in here, they're going to see what we do, and then they're going to try to mimic it. And there's nothing you can do about that.
I heard a celebrity chef get interviewed one time, and someone said, well, you do private parties, right? Well, yeah, I do private parties. And I said, well, don't you worry about someone and you let people record you do what you do, right? Yeah. Well, aren't you worried they're just going to copy what you do? And they didn't miss a beat, and he looked down and said, nobody can do it like I can do it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. we have the same kind of attitude, when we built this place, this is another thing that drives me crazy. It's like if you really want to build a business, then invest yourself into it and do all your research and find out everything you can about it and try to become the expert in everything. Because nowadays it's so easy for people to say, I want something to make me a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And when they go to start the business, like give me the game plan. Like, how am I supposed to do it?
Yeah,
what am I supposed to do?
Tell me where I get the wood.
Where do I get the?
Where
do I source materials? Blah blah blah.
And we
see
did all of that.
We see it all the time, and it drives us crazy because in the beginning we did not look at another place. We did not step foot in another place. We did not ask a question. Any testing or development of stuff. Well, yeah, it is a little bit.
It is a lot of pride.
But then then it's all completely genuine and all from the ground up, and then you know what I mean. It just lends itself better to building a better brand in general when you do it that way. So.
How did you describe the decision-making process to branch out and do the business licenses in Branson and Joplin? And two-part question, what's next?
So the decision was early. Like about the same time we opened our doors for this facility, we already knew we wanted to branch out and potentially create more. And we didn't really know if it was going to be a franchise type thing or if we owned other locations, but we knew we wanted more and we wanted the brand to grow. And we felt, because we had been working on that brand for a good 6 months, we felt that we had something that other people would be attracted to, and it would be a viable business to try to branch out like that. So it's all right. So with these other brand licenses that we have in Branson and Joplin, it was all kind of word of mouth, and then people that had come here and experienced TommyHawks that led in turn to those questions, like, hey, we loved what you did there. You know, I'm a retired cop out of Branson. I would love to build something like this at TommyHawks in my area. And that sort of sparked the actual legwork, paperwork to figure out how to drop those documents and get that stuff done. So, do you want anything to add? And then what's
anything to add and what's next?
I was going to say that too. We wanted to grow the brand so that we become the biggest and the best and all of that, which even still also is letting go of a little bit of control. So it's like knowing that, man, somebody else totally other than us is going to run it. Our story hopefully will resonate still throughout, our locations, but we do have plans to open other corporate locations. We're kind of starting the process of figuring out where we're going to go next for that, because those are two unique individuals that I do think we may do it a little bit differently the next go round. We may do a full-on franchise and maybe not, and still make it affordable for veterans, but do it to where they are following exactly kind of what we want.
Yeah.
And then doing our own corporate. And then as far as like what's next, I'm not gonna lie. Like some days it's like, man, should we just close down and never do anything again? Never do anything again.
Yeah.
But that's just being real. Because it is hard. It's hard work. It's a lot of financial stress, family, personal stress. It is a lot. But the rewards right now far outweigh any of that.
Then why do you continue to do it?
Right. Yeah. It really is the rewards. And I will say that the reward of my staff, my guys that are like family to me, they're important to me. Their families are important to me. So taking care of them and them working here, that's really important to me. I love the community. I love the people that come in here that we are able to serve. That's my heart. So I love all of that. I love meeting new people. That's more my extrovert. Tom is not that way. But that's what I love about it. I love going to tournaments. I love how big this industry has grown and the sport of axe throwing has grown, that I've really gained a lot of really good friends throughout the whole entire sport. So that's, I think, why we keep doing it right now anyway. And then we have apparel. So we right now sell to other axe houses our apparel line, and that's going to be a way that we're going to really grow in the next few years. And printing shirts, and our designs are amazing, and Tom does all of the artwork for that. So that's really, just to keep growing and to get financially to a point where if we do want to step away to do something humanitarian, which is my heart, then I can do that. That's where I want to get to. So.
That's awesome.
Yep, I mean, I agree with Casey and everything she says. Like, my favorite thing is the fact that when people come in here, sometimes they're apprehensive, sometimes they've already been here and they know that they're going to have a good time, but everybody leaves these doors with smiles on their faces and telling us what a great place it is, and that's a good feeling to have. And not once have I ever heard, seen a comment or anything negative about TommyHawks, and that's.
I got to say that the experience that you guys provide, and I'm not just saying the literal process of axe throwing, but just the environment, just the whole thing. I was in this lane right here, throwing in this lane right there.
Yeah.
These people right here were horrible. They couldn't hit the dadgum. They couldn't make it stick for yeah. But you know what? I think they were having a better time than we were. And I just thought it was interesting. I thought, what a great product that you can provide that people suck at it and they still want to come back and do it again. And they have a blast,
Hopefully we fix that the next time it comes, what I
Right.
mean? Or at least it's just maybe more practice or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Because
Well,
we do
that's
try
exactly
to get
right.
everybody to at least stick it and
Yeah.
play the game and have a good time.
Yeah.
It is an experience for sure.
Yeah. So, guys, I want to just give you a final opportunity here in closing to share any other pearls of wisdom that you have to aspiring young entrepreneurs out there who will be watching this interview, and anything else that you want to share about your business.
Okay. Well, for me, I mean, it's not any pearl of wisdom necessarily, but I will tell everybody in your class that if you are interested in building a business, you're interested in building a brand, you have an idea in your head, or you think something could be improved, or you have an idea for a product, you know, that is never going to get off the ground and is never going to be successful unless you at least try, right? So there's been so many people that have come through and or I've met in my life, they're like, oh, I could have done this, or I should have built this business when I thought about it and all that kind of stuff, and they never took the steps, even step one, to try to get into that position. So, you know, 100% of those businesses are going to fail because they never get off the ground to begin with. So my suggestion is, if you are interested in business and that is just what you want to follow, then follow those ideas, you know, follow those ideas and see them through.
The longest journey begins with a single step.
Exactly.
And like Tom said too, just do your research, you know, become an expert in what you want to do, and really take pride and ownership in that, and to take the time to do that. Don't expect somebody to give you all the answers. That's what I would say as far as being an entrepreneur. And then, yeah, I guess for me, just my personal pearl or whatever, is going to be to let those people know that, like, it's not going to be perfect, that everything you do, you are going to fail. You're going to have days that just seem like it's a waste, and what am I doing? Or am I doing this right? And that's okay, because as long as you get up the next day and keep going forward, you're still going forward. So that's all I would say with that. And then, yeah, we would love to have anybody come out and throw some axes with us. We have a really good time.
If you've never been,
right.
Come on down.
Yeah. What I like to say, my coin phrase, is we have a lot of fun here at TommyHawks. So I say that all the time, is we have fun, and we do. So yeah, that would be what I would say.
Well, one of my favorite quotes is, success looks a lot like hard work.
It's true.
I say that a lot in the business world, and when I was coaching the triathlon team, we said that a lot there. But you got to be willing to grind and put in the hard work, the late hours, the early hours. So I really admire everything you guys have done, literally from scratch. It's pretty amazing. There's not a lot of people out there that have done something like that.
Yeah.
So.
And be a constant learner. You know, I meant to say that too, because Tom is still in school. So he actually has 3 MBAs, and then he's getting his doctorate. 3 masters, sorry, 3 masters. That's what I meant to say. And he's getting his doctorate. But, like, just being a constant learner, listen, you know, go sit in another class, or somebody presenting something that you have no idea about. You know, constantly be improving yourself on every level, and that really does kind of translate into business if you decide to go that route, and just constantly broaden your mind.
Awesome.
Learn different things.
Well, people are starting to throw some axes over there,
right? It's
so
getting loud.
I'll let you guys do your thing here. So thank you so much for doing this, and really appreciate you taking time out.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing it.
For this class.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.